I don't think people realize how traumatic it is to not have your spiritual practices and to be severed from the divine. A lot of us who grew up in the Black community struggle in our relationships because there are spirits that are blocking the connection in those relationships. And if we don't have a spiritual practice, including open and closed practices that aligns with who we are scripted within our DNA, what happens is a lot of us have gotten into relationships without knowing these things and have tried to force these relationships to be something that wasn't already aligned to happen in the divine realm. And so the reason I study Akashic Records as so much, and the most of the information that I share comes from Akashic Records, is because I don't have to research every spiritual practice on the planet to figure out what works for me. A lot of the information that I receive came from the Akashic Records, which holds the data of everything from the beginning of time to the end and in between in multiple dimensions. So this is why a lot of our relationships are really hard, and it was really damaging for the church, created by Rome, to demonize indigenous spiritual practices. And then they gave us spiritual practices that were actually stolen from our spiritual practices, except they manipulated the information so that it would create a vacuum spiritually in our community. And so we try to exist in this world severed, in a state of being severed from our higher, our divine self and our spiritual matrons and patrons as well. Knowing your spiritual parents is really powerful next to your higher, our divine self communication, and also having a connection with your ancestors. And so being able to venerate them and give honor to them, these things help to clear out whatever may be causing road blockages. And so, in the beginning of my current relationship, I immediately recognized that there was a spirit husband and a spirit wife that was in between me and my partner. And so, one of the first things that we did was created a routine to sever that connection, cutting the cords between us and the spiritual wife and the spiritual husband that was assigned to us from religion. And our relationship began to grow and evolve in a way that it didn't prior to us doing that. And so when you look at the justice of peace being the ones who dictate if a marriage is righteous or holy, through that piece of paper, but there is no other prerequisite, right? So basically, the false crown from the false royalty created these statutes and laws to create limitations to keep us severed from our divine self, thus making it difficult for us to have healthy, authentic relationships. And so I've been teaching this for a long time, but I realized that I'm reaching new people now. So I'm kind of going back with some things that were just a revelation that had not ever been revealed or spoken about before, to my knowledge. So with that, that was one thing that really helped our relationship. And unfortunately, some of us who did go through the justice of peace, but the relationship was not approved by our ascended ancestors and or spiritual army that's assigned to every one of us. Okay, a lot of times we just don't remember the agreement when we review the life we would experience in this incarnation. But you have to, the sorcery that was done within the paperwork, within the vows and the rituals, to death do us part. There is no such thing as death. So what happens is those two souls stay intermingled with one another, and maybe they were not supposed to. So in every incarnation after this, those two souls will continue to play a role in each other's life that may or may not be expired, because everybody that come into our life is not in our life for every single incarnation. And so what that did was it created a soul binding spell to keep us stuck reincarnating in trauma loops. So what happens is that person, if let's just say your authentic soul contract said that you all were supposed to do mother and son for the last time, and then you come back and you end up husband and wife, you take those vows. When you leave your physical form, now your next soul evolutionary cycle is being manipulated by a contract that you gave consent to while on this planet, that was created by the very people that colonized us and did so many horrible things to our people. So relationships are difficult, specifically in the Black community, which means death, okay? And a lot of the ceremonies are created around the scapegoat, which is Jesus, who lost his life on a tree. Okay, let that one sit. At the hands of the people in position of law enforcement. Let that one sit for a moment. Okay. And this is something that created a template for how we learn to navigate life. And because of all of this sorcery, magic, manipulation, um, because words are spells and they're cast, right? So what happened was, not only were we severed from our soul's authentic evolutionary cycle, but we exist with entities attached to us that create confusion and chaos to keep the trauma moving through the bloodlines. So a lot of what was happening through not just the church, not just the contracts that were created by the church, but also through entertainment. And it was used to socially engineer us. And then you look at slavery, and the way that we were treated on plantations and cotton fields and cane fields. Look at all of that we've been through. I'm matter of fact, I'm gonna put an overlay up here of a lot of shit that we've been through that I saw posted, and I've been making a list for the last 8 or 9 years because I realized how unique the experience is of someone who has been labeled as black. So the difficulty in our relationships is unique. And when I look at other cultures that are connected to their spiritual practices, I do notice more of an emotional attunement between them. So, on the spiritual side of this, yeah, some major energetic fuckery was done and it's being healed now. And if this resonates with you, go to my Patreon and check out the decodings and a lot of the things that I have done that you're not going to be able to find anywhere else because they won't allow me to post it. Okay. But I'm going to continue in this time sharing what I've learned in the Akashic Records, especially for the people who are new to Camps and the Untamed Oracle. And yeah, just stay tuned. I'm definitely I'm cooking. All right. I'm cooking and I'm getting ready to serve it up. So stay tuned if my energy resonates with you.